to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester podcast. We are a community built on love, hope, and justice. Our goal is to inspire people to take on the challenges of a changing world. Each week we'll bring you a reflection from our minister, the Reverend Aaron Payson, recorded during our Sunday service. Maybe it'll move you, challenge your thinking, or even stir up a little righteous indignation. That's all welcome here. Thanks for listening.
When I think how far an onion has traveled, just to enter my stew today, I could kneel and praise all forgotten miracles. Crackly paper peeling on the drain board, pearly layers of smooth agreement, the way the knife enters onion and onion falls apart on the chopping block. A history revealed. And I would never scold the onion for causing tears. It is right that tears fall for something small and forgotten. How at meal we sit and to eat, commenting on the texture of meat or herbal aroma, but never on the translucence of onion. Now limp, now divided, or its traditionally honorable career for the sake of others disappear. The words of Naomi Shihab Nye came back to me this week. After 3.5 years, we finally finished our kitchen remodel with the installation of new ceramic tile backsplash behind the counters and the stove. In a moment of sheer joy as we reset the counters, my wife handed me a bag of onions and said, "These are for the pot," and then handed me 2 more which had sprouted long green tendrils and said, "These are for the garden." I thought to myself, what tenacity these 2 bulbs have as I remembered the words of the poet. In that moment, I thought of the journey these bulbs had taken and how, even far from the ground in which they began their sojourn, they continued to carry within them the longing to grow. Which brought back another favorite reading by Mary Grico from her book, The Kitchen Mystic, which I came across once in an anthology of readings on spiritual literacy. She writes, "I see God in onions. I always have. I remember the first time my mother sliced into an onion when I was about 6. I stopped my playing, awestruck. What is this vegetable that is so pure, so watery white, so many layered and concentric rings that make mounds of perfect circles as they fall open onto the cutting board?" I begged her to let me cut some. Despite her warning that it would make my eyes burn, I can remember the concentration and the reverence welling up within me as I awkwardly tried to make perfect slices. My eyes did burn, and I had to stop after a few cuts, but I vowed that I would understand onions someday and cook with them myself. My contemplation of the mystery of the onion continues to this day. As an artist, I have paid homage to my friend the onion by creating a stained glass window of an underground bulb that now hangs in a local food co-op. As a cook, I have learned how to coax the sweetness out of an onion and to tame its fire into mellow good humor. I can cut them now without crying, but not without pausing for a brief moment. Red onions are especially divine. I hold a slice up to the sunlight pouring through the kitchen window, and it glows like a fine piece of antique glass. Cool, watery white with layers delicately edged with imperial purple. Strong, humble, peaceful, with that fiery nub of spring green at its center, aspiring to sprout, and I become more. Ah, look at this one. I cry to my husband and my daughter nearby, and they look at each other and they smile at me tolerantly. That is a really nice one. They don't get God in onions the way I do, but they know that we mystics have to stick together. The first line of the second paragraph caught my attention. My contemplation of the mystery of the onion continues to this day. Mystery is a word with a fascinating etymology. Its earliest precursor is a form of the Greek maion, meaning to close or shut the eyes or the lips. Surely they must have been cutting onions when this word evolved. Then Old Latin added to the evolution the concept of mysterium, which referred to secret worship or sacred things. Old French followed with mystère as a term for a hidden meaning, which gave rise in the 14th century to the Middle English word mystère, which often focuses on religious truth and divine revelation. A word that began as a description of a human response to that which could cause one to close their eyes and their mouth, in other words, to fall silent, becomes the primary means to describe a religious experience. Notice that the original meaning did not carry the modern sense of something that was unexplainable. The root is in the human response to that which transcends sensual experience. I think this is an important part of what we need to recover from the term, especially in an era in which we're living. Hear the words of the American playwright Eve Ensler of the Vagina Monologues fame. Why are we suddenly a nation and a people who strive for security above all else? In fact, security is essentially elusive, impossible. We all die, we all get sick, we all get old, people leave us, people surprise us, people change us. Nothing is secure. And this is the good news, but only if you're not seeking security as the point of your life. Here's what happens when security becomes the center of your life. You can't travel very far or venture too far outside a certain circle. You can't allow too many conflicting ideas into your mind at one time, as they might confuse you or challenge you. You can't open yourself to new experiences and new people and new ways of doing things. They might take you off course. You cling desperately to your own identity. Of course, now you can no longer feel what another person feels, because that might shatter your heart, confuse your basic thinking, destroy your whole structure. Ideas get shorter. They become sound bites. They're evildoers and saviors, criminals and victims. Those who are not with us are against us. It gets easier to hurt people because you do not feel what's inside them. But all of this offers only a false sense of security. Real security means contemplating death, not pretending it doesn't exist. It means not running from loss, but feeling it, surrendering to sorrow, entering grief. Real security is not knowing something when you don't know it. Real security cannot be bought or arranged or accomplished with bombs. It is deeper. It is a process. It is the acute awareness that we are all utterly independent and that one action by one being in one town has consequences everywhere. Real security is the ability to tolerate mystery, complexity, ambiguity, indeed hungering for these things. As if continuing Ensler's meditation, Jamie Holmes writes in his book Nonsense, or their book Nonsense, the roots of prejudice can be traced to a general cognitive outlook characterized by the hunger for certainty. Let me say that again. The roots of prejudice can be traced to a general cognitive outlook characterized by the hunger for certainty. Prejudiced people, Alport wrote in his landmark book, The Nature of Prejudice, seem afraid to say, "I don't know." They have an urge for quick and definite answers, cling to past solutions, and have a preference for order, but especially social order. Such people adopt concrete, if rigid, modes of thinking, cannot tolerate ambiguity when making plans, latch onto what is familiar, safe, simple, definite, and fail to see all relevant sides of a problem. What Ensler, Holmes, and Alport all seem to point at is the underlying truth that there are truths that can only be known when we stop interrogating the universe long enough to feel them. Which takes us back to the transsensual experience from which the word mystery itself is born. Furthermore, when we encounter those things that make us, take us beyond our desire to figure it all out and to just be, we experience beauty and joy and love. As the author Ken Newberg once wrote, "When all the words have been written and all the phrases have been spoken, the great mystery of life will still remain." We may map the terrains of our lives, measure the farthest reaches of the universe, but no amount of searching will ever reveal for certain whether we are all children of chance or part of a great design. And who among us would have it otherwise? Would you wish to take the mystery out of the experience of looking into a newborn infant's eyes? Or the comedian, now of blessed memory, Gilda Radner, who once opined, "I want a perfect ending. Now I've learned the hard way that some poems don't rhyme, and some stories don't have a clear beginning, middle, and end. Life is about not knowing, having to change, taking the moment and making the best of it, without knowing what's going to happen next. Delicious ambiguity." In the UUA Tapestry of Faith curriculum, Spirit and Practice, the authors tell the story of the mystic and the scientist, saying, "One day a religious man approached a mystic and asked, 'Does God exist?' 'Allow me to go within for an answer,' the mystic replied. And after meditating for quite some time, expanding her heart consciousness to embrace the totality of existence, she answered, 'I don't know what you mean by the word God, but I do know that this world is more mysterious and more wonderful than I could ever imagine. I know that you and I are part of something much larger than our own lives. Perhaps this something as larger as what you seek.' Then the religious man approached a scientist. 'Does God exist?' he asked. 'Let me think,' said the scientist. And so she thought. She thought about the vastness of the universe, 156 billion light years, and something like 936 billion trillion miles in diameter, and the almost immeasurable smallness of the quark. And she thought about how the energy of the Big Bang fuels the beating of her own heart. And then she answered, 'I don't know what you mean by the word God, but I do know that this world is more mysterious and more wonderful than I could ever imagine. I know that you and I are part of something much larger than our own lives. Perhaps this something larger is what you seek.' And the religious man thought to himself, he thought of what he knows and what he does not know. He thought about how he knows what he knows and how he knows he doesn't know what he doesn't know. He thought about his experience of the world and how it is but one tiny, infinitesimal fraction of all experience. He thought about his dependence on forces larger than himself, and he thought about the interdependence of all existence. He experienced wonder and pondered mystery. And then he knew in his soul the truth of what the mystic and the scientist said, that he is part of something much larger than his own life. And then, only then, did he think about what he'd call it. In a day and age when categorization of everything, including each other, into a preconceived boxes of our own secure knowing are thought to be necessary precursor to every encounter, the notion of coming to know something without naming it seems utterly foreign. And yet it is exactly this that frees us to move beyond the boundaries set for us by our own minds and those of others that surround us. In my own life, the most poignant example of this was the moment that my mother called me in the spring of 1998 to tell me that she had fallen in love with her friend Nancy and planned to move in with her. The woman who had been my father's steadfast companion for over 28 years, who had walked the way of life and ministry with him, cared for him in the years of his own demise, and grieved that loss with a very full heart, was in love again. Her coming out, though, was complicated by her thoughts about the arrival of her first grandchild that next fall. "Do you think the baby will accept lesbian grandmothers?" she asked. "Mom, I hear you, and I want you to know that labels here don't matter. What matters is that you've discovered love again, and we all couldn't be happier for you." Or as a favorite poem, again by the poet Naomi Shihab Nye, reminds us, the Arabs used to say when a stranger appears at your door, feed him for 3 days before asking who he is, where he's come from, or where he's headed. That way he'll have enough strength to answer, or by then you'll be such good friends you don't care. Let's go back to that. Rice? Pine nuts? Here, take the red brocade pillow. My child will serve water to your horse. No, I wasn't busy when you came. I was not preparing to be busy. That's the armor everyone put on to pretend they had purpose in the world. I refuse to be claimed. Your plate is waiting. I will snip fresh mint into your tea. Amen. And blessed be.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're just crossing our path, either new to this congregation or curious about Unitarian Universalism, check out our website, uucworcester.org. You'll find lots of information there about our beliefs, the 8 guiding principles, religious exploration for children and adults, our social action initiatives, and the many groups we offer to help people connect and have fun. And consider joining us, in person or online, on a Sunday morning at 10 a.m. We'd love to meet you.